welcome. So this is a short tutorial video on kind of how to take your keywords from your research question and then plug them into advanced searches within the library databases. So we talked about the importance of keywords, just to review the key things. So you start with a research question. You know you have a good research question that's narrow enough, usually when you have three key concepts, and it's really important to isolate those three key concepts. Number two, it's really important to be aware of the language being used. So if you're a first-year student, you might not know the language people are using to talk about your topic. So as you start to research, you want to be very attentive and aware to the kinds of just words people are using to talk about your topic, and you want to use the words that people are using. And number three, you can broaden your search with related terms. So often people use different language to talk about similar things. And so you can brainstorm related terms to broaden the search as well. And so we also talked about Boolean operators, just to review these. So you've got and, or, not. So the first thing, these have to be in all caps. So students always overlook this. So the reason why they have to be in all caps is because you're telling the database that you want it to do something for you, that you're not searching for the word and, that you want to connect different terms. And so and narrows your search by telling the database, I only want you to give me sources that include both of these terms. And if they don't include both, then I don't want it. But again, it has to be A and D, all caps. Otherwise, the database will think you wanted to search for the word and the word and is going to come up in pretty much every single document in the history of the world, so you don't want it to do that at all. Or it broadens the search, and so your OR, capital OR, it tells the database you want to find sources that have either this term or that term. I'm going to give you examples in a minute. That's a way to broaden the search if you want to cast a wider net. And not, capital NOT, it narrows the search by excluding something. And so if there's a certain term that you don't want, you don't want results for, then you would put not before that term and it would exclude it. So those are those. We've talked about this already. Then Boolean modifiers. So these are also super helpful in terms of making your search effective. Number one, the phrase search. So if you have a phrase of more than one word, you put it in quotes, and the database knows that you want to look for exactly that phrase. And so it has to be more than one word. You know, if you do one word, it won't it's kind of pointless. But if you have an exact term, so I have one there, popular modernism, that's something I've been looking into. I put the exact phrase in quotation marks. And so if the quotation marks were not there, then the database would look for everything with popular and everything with modernism. So that would be a gigantic number of sources. Popular modernism is a very, very specific concept from a researcher I like and I follow. And so by putting it in quotation marks, I limit the number of sources like to a tiny fraction of what it would have been by putting those quotation marks there. And so that's going to make my research effective. If I didn't have the quote marks there, it'd be pretty much a useless search. So that's the phrase search. Number two, truncation. So, often, you have a root word and then you can add, different endings basically into a root. And often what you'll want is you'll want every word related to that root. And so what do? Well, you put an asterisk at the end of the root, and then the database knows, okay, I'm looking for every single word that has this root. And so the example says modern with an asterisk. And so anything that begins with modern, the database would pull up for me. And so that's very helpful because, if people are talking about modernism, they might say modernism, they might say modernist, they might say modernists, plural. They might say modernity, and so on and so forth. And so that way you don't have to include all those different terms in your search. You can just do modern asterisk. And finally, parentheses. Parentheses, just like the order of operations in math, it tells the database what to do first. And so just like math, whatever is in the parentheses, that's what you do first. And so if you're going to make a search string and you're going to connect things with, the different operators, then you definitely want to put the ones that are grouped with or in parentheses, and then you want to connect the parentheses with and with your other terms. And so I'm going to show you a simpler way to do this through the advanced searches. But if you're doing a whole search string, then you definitely need to use parentheses to tell the database the order of operations that you'd like it to follow. Okay, and so advanced searches and databases. So databases, they're designed for academic research, obviously, and they have an advanced search feature. And what it does, it has, they have different, I'm going to show you in a second, there are different search bars that are connected, and on the kind of left-hand side, it's going to give you the option for kind of which operator you want to connect these bars with. So basically, it's just a simpler way to take this whole kind of net of search terms you've brainstormed and to plug them into a search in a way that's just easier to manage. You can use operators and modifiers within each bar as well. It just kind of simplifies things for you a little bit. And this is what it looks like. So no matter what database you're working in, whether this is just a basic library all search, every database is going to have this same feature. You just want to find the advanced search kind of button and press that, and then it'll bring up something like this. Okay, and so you've got 3 bars here. You can keep adding more bars if you want. Add new line down here. If you want to do more than 3, I think it only gives you 2 to begin with. But then, so what you're doing here is you're grouping your concepts. So every bar, you put a concept in that bar. And then if you want to include related terms, you'll connect the related terms with or within each bar. And you'll see on the left-hand side here, you see the capital A and D, the and. And so each bar is being connected to narrow the search. And within each bar, the or is being used to broaden the search. So again, when you're doing searches in academic libraries and really any database, and by the way, all this stuff is applicable to like Google, and so you could use these strategies within Google as well, and it would give you better searches. But you're coming up with you're narrowing and then you're broadening. You're kind of like making a net. You're kind of like if you were a fisherman making a net to go catch information, and you want your net to be kind of well constructed so that you catch the information that you want and that you don't catch the information that you don't want. And so this is kind of the basic way to do that. So my research question here is pet therapy effective for treating mental health problems? So in the first bar, I've got pet or cat or dog. You keep going on and on forever with different types of animals that people might have as pets. And then the second bar, so therapy or counseling, you go on and on, anything related to therapy or counseling. So I use a truncation. And so therapy, it could be therapies, therapeutic, so on and so forth. Counseling, you get the idea. The truncation will pull up anything. Then I've got the phrase search, mental health. But then I've got related terms, specific types of mental health problems. And again, that could go on for like infinity, pretty much. If you want to keep connecting narrower terms with or, anxiety, bipolar, whatever it might be. So I hope that makes sense. And just before I go, I'm just going to go back to this key search terms handout. Because what I notice students having difficulty with is just keeping this straight. And so you have your 3 concepts, and then you have related terms, okay? And you've got to keep these straight in your head. So just start with your concepts, right? And then plug the concepts in your search bar. Each bar gets the concept. And then however many or however many few related terms you want to put in there, it's totally up to you. And like I said before, there's a lot of trial and error involved with this. But it's really important that you're aware of you've got the key concepts on one hand, and then you've got the related terms on the other hand. And it's super, super important how you kind of organize that information within this advanced search bar. Otherwise, it's going to screw things up, and you're not going to get what you're looking for. Okay, I think I'll stop there. Thank you.